I once believed marriage was built on trust, that love alone could keep my dignity intact. I was wrong. My name is Reese Wilson, and this is the story of betrayal and the revenge that turned me into someone I never expected to become. 5 days ago, I was standing at the kitchen counter with my daughter Skylar's tablet in hand, reading a group chat I was never supposed to see. My wife Haley, her sister Julia, and their mother Evelyn had labeled it family only. The messages went back months, years even, mocking me. "He's just a pushover," Haley wrote. "He won't do anything," Julia responded, adding a laughing emoji. "Drain his savings while you can," advised Evelyn. "He'll never stand up for himself." They ridiculed me for declining a job promotion so I could have more time with Skylar. They mocked my trusting nature, how I never questioned Haley's so-called house renovations, which were really spa weekends, shopping sprees, or worse, affairs. But what hurt wasn't the stolen money. It was the contempt, the callous scorn that turned all my sacrifices into a family joke. Right then, I could have just called a lawyer, filed for divorce, and walked away. But something inside me snapped. I realized I wasn't just going to leave. I needed them to understand the cost of shattering a decent man's faith and assuming he'd remain tame. My whole life, I'd been the nice guy, the accommodating father, the supportive husband. Never once had they stopped to wonder what might happen if that calm, obliging man discovered a very real, very dark anger. That night, while Haley slept, I stared at the ceiling, numb from betrayal. My heart pounded, my fists clenched, my chest burned with unfamiliar fury. I thought about Skylar, my only link to goodness, and realized that no matter what, I had to protect her. I had to ensure these people would never use her as a pawn in their schemes. I had to make them regret every smug, self-satisfied message in that family-only chat. 2 days later, my daughter approached me. "Daddy?" she asked. "Why does Mommy's friend come over when you're not home?" I froze, holding my phone. "What friend, sweetheart?" "That tall man. He has a ring like yours and Mommy's," Skylar said. "He comes by when you're at work. He always brings her coffee and they hang out in her room. Sometimes they laugh. I heard Mommy call him Max or something." Max. The name fell into place with sickening clarity. Max Ross, my longtime best friend. We'd grown up together. He was the one who introduced me to Haley at some birthday barbecue for Julia. He was always at our house, always cracking jokes. I remembered how Haley would straighten up whenever he arrived, her face brightening in a way she rarely showed for me. But I was oblivious back then. Now, the puzzle pieces slammed into place. Haley was cheating with my best friend. A cold, dark feeling roiled in my gut. After Skylar scampered off to watch cartoons, I placed a small, motion-activated camera in the living room, hidden behind a vase. Haley, so sure of my cluelessness, never noticed. The next afternoon, while I was supposedly at work, my phone buzzed with a notification. Max's silver pickup pulled into our driveway, and the camera caught him letting himself in, all smiles. He and Haley kissed in the foyer, curtains wide open, his wedding ring still on his finger. He was married to Caitlin, a woman I'd always believed he loved. They stayed in my bedroom for 2 hours. Then he walked out, casually adjusting his shirt and leaving. I didn't cry or scream. I just watched the video feed in a daze, feeling something poisonous slither into my soul. That night, I overheard Haley on the phone with Evelyn. "He'll never confront me," she laughed. "We'll finish everything next week once his bonus comes in. I'll serve him the papers and I'll take the house." "What's he gonna do? Cry?" My chest felt like it would explode, but her arrogance lit the match inside me. I was done staying silent. I'd let them go as far as they wanted. Then I would show them who I really was. My patience was about to end. I met with my lawyer, Ms. Carter, and gave her everything. Screenshots, video footage, text messages. She read them carefully, her eyes widening. "You have a slam-dunk divorce case, possibly criminal charges," she said. "I'll need time to organize it all, but Reese, I can see you're furious. You have every right. Just stay within the law." I left her office with a feeling like the calm before a hurricane. I wouldn't do anything illegal. I'd remain just inside the boundaries. But I wasn't planning to handle Max quietly. I was finished letting them all assume kindness meant weakness. The next big event was Evelyn's family dinner, where Haley, Julia, Evelyn, and all their close contacts gathered monthly to gossip and keep up appearances. Everyone would be there. I arranged for Skylar to stay over at a friend's house so she wouldn't witness the chaos I anticipated. I wanted my daughter safely away. I wondered how best to reveal everything, and then an opening appeared. Julia's husband, Peter, bumped into me at the grocery store. "You're coming to dinner, right?" he asked with a forced smile. "I'll be there," I replied, returning the fake grin. He gave me an odd look, like he suspected something was off, but he shrugged. None of them suspected what I had planned. On Saturday evening, I arrived at Evelyn's imposing house. All tall hedges, pristine walkway, elegant pillars. A polished front hiding rotted secrets. Julia greeted me, wearing a grin too wide. "Reese, so happy you could come. Haley and Mom are in the kitchen with the roast. It's going to be great." "Looking forward to it," I replied coolly. Inside, Evelyn and Haley fluttered around, playing gracious hosts. Evelyn had that queenly posture, chin raised like she was royalty. Haley wore a summery dress, cheeks flushed, not from real work, but from the thrill of her own charades. "Reese," Haley said in a syrupy tone, "so sweet of you to come straight after your shift. Sit in the living room, darling. Julia will bring you some iced tea." I forced a polite smile, took the tea from Julia, and ignored the meaningful, scheming glances passing between her and Evelyn. We gathered around a massive dining table. Evelyn said, "Let's go around and share this week's highlights." "Haley, you begin," she prodded. Haley tossed her hair dramatically. "I've been finalizing my new business venture," she announced. "I was trying to keep it secret, but I can't resist. It's going to bring us so much revenue. I'm relying on my lovely husband's support." She placed a manicured hand on my arm and smiled, brimming with smugness. She had no idea I had the real records of her finances locked in Ms. Carter's office. A detailed account of how she and Julia funneled my money into hidden projects. The dinner wasn't just about telling them I knew, it was also about confronting them face to face. Let them see me, instead of the doormat they thought I was. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. Before Julia could get up, I stood. "I'll get it," I offered. At the door was a courier I had hired, holding manila envelopes with names on each. I thanked him, and he left. Returning to the dining room, I set an envelope by each plate, my heart pounding so hard I could barely hear. But on the outside, I was calm. "Before dessert," I said, "I have something to share." Evelyn's face pinched. "What is this about?" "Open them," I answered softly. One by one, they lifted sheets of paper out. Screenshots, bank statements, message logs, photos. Gasps, curses, and horrified stares erupted around the table. Haley's face went ashen. Julia's mouth hung open. Evelyn's lips went thin and bloodless. Even Peter looked stunned, flipping page after page in shock. It was all there. Bank records proving that tens of thousands were stolen from my account, ostensibly for renovations. Captures of their family-only group chat, mocking me, discussing strategies for milking me dry. Footage of Max entering my house on days I was away at work, time-stamped. Emails from Evelyn instructing them on how to manipulate me for maximum financial gain. "What the?" Julia's voice shook with rage and panic. Haley's eyes welled with tears. "Reese, why would you do this? This was private." "Stealing from me was private too," I said. "Cheating on me with my so-called best friend was your secret, but you dragged me into it when you made a fool of me." Evelyn slammed her hand on the table. "You had no right." "I had every right," I replied, fixing her with a glare. "You think you can rob me blind and treat me like garbage? Of course I gathered evidence. Thoroughly." From across the table, Peter stared at Julia, looking shell-shocked. "Julia, are these real? Bank logs? Second mortgages? You borrowed against our house too?" Julia stammered. "Peter, honey, it's not what it looks like." He held up a statement, voice trembling. "You've been funneling his money, my money, where exactly?" She shot me a hateful look. "You bastard! You've ruined everything." "No," I said coldly. "You ruined everything. I just made sure you didn't get away with it." Then the doorbell rang again. My stomach clenched. Part of me knew who it would be. Someone I hadn't invited but half expected. Haley leapt to her feet, smoothing her dress with shaking hands. "I'll see who it is," she said, voice trembling. I followed her, with the rest of the family right behind. When Haley opened the door, there stood Max Ross, my former best friend, dressed in a black leather jacket, his face a mess of guilt and desperation. "Haley," he began softly, I needed to talk to you." Then he saw me. "Reese," he stammered, eyes going wide. "Listen, I know how it looks, but..." A jolt of fury shot through me. The same man I had camped with, shared jokes with, who had been my best man, was sneaking around with my wife. My jaw tensed so hard it hurt. "Why are you here, Max?" I asked, deceptively calm. He glanced at Haley. "I wanted to figure this out. It's complicated." My voice rose, raw and bitter. "Complicated? While I'm off working, you walk into my home and sleep with my wife. My daughter told me all about Mommy's friend." His face went pale. "Reese, please, you have to understand. I understand perfectly," I snarled, stepping forward. Haley cried out, "Stop!" But I barely heard her. This was the man who'd played me for a fool, shaking my hand, eating at my table, hugging me goodbye, all while betraying me. Max lifted his hands, either in surrender or to plead, but I lunged, slamming my shoulder into his gut. He stumbled backward into the doorframe. Wood splintered with a loud crack. Julia screamed. Evelyn shrieked for me to stop, but I didn't care. My fist smashed across Max's jaw, a burst of agony shooting through my knuckles, but it felt good, almost too good. He staggered, stepping off the threshold onto the porch. I followed, hooking another punch that caught him on the cheek, sending him sideways. "Reese," he gasped. "This is insane. It's called justice," I spat, my heart hammering. "While you were smiling at barbecues, you were stabbing me in the back." He reached out to grab my arm, but I jerked away, driving a hard kick behind his knee. He buckled with a curse. I stood over him, breathing hard. Haley's voice cut through the rage. "You'll kill him! Reese, stop!" A hollow laugh escaped me. "You never cared about me." "Only him." Everything in my body shook with adrenaline. Max coughed, spitting blood, eyes filled with fear. Still not enough to erase months, years of betrayal. I gripped his jacket collar, leaning down. "You're done," I hissed, voice trembling with hatred. "You hear me? Done." Suddenly, strong hands clamped around my shoulders, Peter and someone else pulling me back. "Enough, Reese," Peter panted. "He's not worth it." Max slumped against the porch rail, blood trickling from his mouth. He looked terrified, like he'd never realized I could be more than a mild, easygoing friend. I let them drag me inside, adrenaline still coursing through my veins. Haley hurried to Max, ignoring Julia's sobs or Evelyn's furious cries about calling the police. "Fine," I told Evelyn. "Call them. They'll love to see the evidence I have. I'll get arrested for assault, but you'll all face charges for fraud and theft. And let's see who rots behind bars longer." Evelyn froze, phone raised, face twisted in rage. "You're threatening us?" I gave a mirthless laugh. "Just telling you the truth. Go ahead, dial 911. We'll see how it plays out." Lucy collapsed onto a chair, her face buried in her hands. Evelyn slowly lowered her phone, swallowing hard. Haley helped Max limp onto the sofa, dabbing at his bleeding mouth. Then she turned to me, eyes brimming with tears. "Reese, I'm sorry," she whispered. "It just happened. Max was there and you seemed so distant. I felt alone, so Don't pin this on me," I snarled. "When you wanted cash, I gave it. When you wanted time, I gave it. Everything you asked for, I gave. In return, you laughed behind my back, took my best friend to my bed, and stole my money. You planned it all." Haley's eyes flickered with anger. "Okay. Yes, we mocked you sometimes. You were too naive to see it, but you weren't supposed to turn into this monster." "Monster?" I gave a guttural laugh. You created that monster. Did you think I wanted to do this? You forced my hand. You threw me to the wolves, so I became one." She looked both furious and desperate. "You'll never keep Skylar," she hissed, latching onto her last weapon. "A violent father attacking people? No judge will trust you." I calmly pulled out my phone. On the screen was a text conversation between Haley and Evelyn, plotting to provoke me into a violent outburst to use as proof of abuse in court. It bore timestamps along with evidence of her financial deceptions and her affair. "You're going to lose everything," I said, voice low, "and if you so much as try to use Skylar to threaten me, I will bury you in legal action." My voice dropped to a tremor. "Don't test me." Haley's face crumpled, genuine fear surfacing. She finally grasped just how far I would go to protect our daughter. No one touched the roast Evelyn had spent hours preparing. Everyone stood or slumped around her stylish living room exchanging accusations and tears. Max sat on the sofa, too stunned to speak, blood dripping onto his jacket. Julia sobbed uncontrollably. Evelyn just glowered, her perfect veneer destroyed. Eventually, Evelyn tried to compose herself. "Let's all be calm," she said, voice uneven. "Reese, maybe we can find an arrangement. We're still family." "Not anymore," I shot back. "We won't settle this quietly. You've given me no reason to." Peter looked sick to his stomach as he stared at Julia. "I can't believe you did this. Finances, forging his signature, stealing from him and me?" Julia started crying harder. Said it would be safe. Haley said he'd never know." She was lying in a puddle of regret, but I suspected it was more about being caught than remorse. Evelyn pressed a hand to her temple. "We'll pay you back, or apologize. Just repay me with what?" I interrupted. "You've already spent it, and any apology from you is likely laced with more lies." She pressed her lips into a thin line. "We only need to think carefully." I cut her off. "Here's how it'll go. I've already filed for divorce. You'll be served soon enough. Then there's the fraud case, which my lawyer is pushing for criminal charges. Your little family-only chat is quite the smoking gun for the district attorney. You can talk plea bargains if you want. Go hire a lawyer." Julia clutched her stomach like she might be sick. "And me?" I glanced at Peter. "If you want, we can talk to my attorney together. You need to see just how deep this goes." He nodded, eyes hollow. Max struggled to his feet, leaning on Haley. He couldn't meet my gaze. "Reese, he swallowed. "I've got nothing to say that can fix this." I turned away, the throbbing pain in my fist strangely satisfying. "We're done." I pointed at Evelyn. "Don't bother calling me. Don't manipulate Skylar behind my back. If you try anything, I'll have the cops on your doorstep. Understood?" Evelyn swallowed, fear rippling across her features. "Yes?" I turned to Haley. Her tears were gone, replaced by a vacant stare. "Pack your belongings from my house," I said softly. "Stay here or go to him. But don't set foot in that house again without a police officer present, unless it's for scheduled visitation. You can kiss your comfortable lifestyle goodbye." Her mouth opened, then closed. She knew she was defeated. Within days, Ms. Carter filed a tidal wave of lawsuits, restraining orders, custody motions, and fraud complaints. Julia's husband Peter provided even more evidence about hidden accounts. Everything closed in on them. Max tried calling me once, left a message. "I know I messed up. We can't end our friendship this way. We've been friends forever. Please." I deleted it. Some betrayals can't be undone. Word spread quickly. Evelyn got investigated for forging multiple family members' signatures over the years. Julia had an emotional collapse when Peter froze their accounts and sued her separately. Their fancy lifestyle crumbled. Max's wife, Caitlin, learned the full truth and immediately filed for divorce, taking their 2 kids. She told all their friends what he had done, effectively exiling him from the social circles he once bragged about. My quiet suburban existence turned into an onslaught of depositions, property sales, and hush money offers from Haley, Julia, and Evelyn. Ms. Carter refused all settlement deals, going for maximum damages. She said I'd end up with more money than I ever dreamed. But I only cared about Skylar. I demanded full custody, showing the judge how Haley had manipulated me, lied, and committed fraud. They even saw evidence she was ready to use Skylar as leverage. That was enough to convince the family court judge to grant me sole custody, at least while the case was ongoing. Haley was restricted to supervised visits, because the court feared she might manipulate or even abduct Skylar. It was a harsh measure, but her actions had gone well beyond petty marital issues. Months passed. I found a modest home in a friendly neighborhood, less flashy, more honest. I painted Skylar's bedroom the color she wanted, enrolled her in after-school art, and tried to give her a stable life. Haley tried to paint me as violent in court, pointing to what happened at Evelyn's. But Ms. Carter presented texts proving Haley plotted to provoke me, plus the cheating footage, plus the stolen money. The court was not on Haley's side. One evening, after a custody hearing, Haley approached me in the courthouse hallway. She looked exhausted, mascara smeared, hair unkempt, dark circles under her eyes. "Reese," she pleaded, "I'm so sorry. I never meant for it to go this far. I don't want to lose Skylar." "Stop," I said curtly. "I'm not that gullible man anymore." She began crying. The old me would have felt bad, maybe apologized. This time I just remembered how she'd forced Skylar to lie, how she'd planned to drain my accounts, how she'd derided me in that family chat. "You brought this on yourself," I said, stepping away. She sobbed helplessly, but I had nothing left to give. Max ambushed me outside a local diner a week later. A faint scar still marked his face where my fist hit him. He looked gaunt, as though he hadn't eaten or slept. "Reese," he whispered, "I just want to say how sorry I am. I lost everything. Caitlin, our kids, my job. I was drunk or stupid, both. Haley seemed like she needed me, and I slammed the car door, stepping close until we were nearly nose to nose. He recoiled. "You took advantage," I growled. "And not once, multiple times. Did you think I'd just shrug it off?" He exhaled a shaky breath. "I can't undo it. I hope someday you can forgive me. We were friends forever." I let out a bitter laugh. "You spat on that friendship. Now you want pity because your life fell apart?" Tears filled his eyes. "Fair enough," he mumbled. "If you see Caitlin, tell her I'm sorry." I pulled my arm away from his grasp, resisting the urge to punch him again. "That's your problem. You want redemption? Earn it yourself. Not my concern." He sagged, shoulders slumped, then disappeared down the sidewalk, a broken man. Maybe I felt a flash of sorrow for the kid we once thought he was, but the friend I had trusted was long gone. A few months later, my divorce was finalized. I received nearly all our marital assets, including proceeds from the sale of our old house, some funds forcibly reclaimed. Haley, Julia, and Evelyn faced criminal charges for fraud and theft. They tried for plea deals. I stood ready to testify if needed. Meanwhile, Skylar blossomed in her new school, her new activities, with a father who was fully present and no longer overshadowed by a manipulative spouse. For me, revenge tasted dark and bitter. I'd protected Skylar, yes, and seen that none of them profited from their schemes. But I also realized I'd become someone different. A man who let fury and violence slip through the cracks of his old kindness. I sometimes wondered if that rage would ever fade. Perhaps, in time, I would learn to balance who I used to be with who I became. But for now, I pressed on. Haley and the others finally learned that a man pushed to his limit could fight back harder than they ever imagined. And while my heart still ached for the old dreams of family and lifelong friendship, I understood the truth. Trust can be destroyed in an instant, and the aftermath can reshape you into someone unrecognizable. That's my story. One of betrayal and the unrelenting drive for justice. Maybe it proves that under enough pressure, even the gentlest soul can become something fierce.